Hey, I'm going to talk about vision and how we see. And so for this purpose, I'm going to be a little receptor at the back of the eye, a little sensor. And at the back of the eye, that sensor can only tell the brain what color light is hitting it and how bright that light is. So that's the only information that the sensor can give. Fortunately, we've got a whole bunch of sensors at the back of the eye, just thousands and thousands, millions of them. So all these millions of things can paint a scene. I want to talk about how that scene is painted. And to do that, I want to look out the window here and kind of show you what's going on with the scene outside. Okay, so this is the scene outside. And you can see a couple of things. You can see that I've got some bushes, I've got some mulch, some brown mulch. There's some orange, red tree across the street. There's actually a red tail light on the back of the car. Whole lot of green and some blue sky. And so if the sensor is back here and it's looking out, it can't tell just one color. It can actually. All that stuff's gonna mix together. It all looks kind of all one thing. And that's called blurring. Blurring is when a whole bunch of different parts of a scene meet on one sensor. So what we want to do is we want to make that smaller, that opening smaller. Because now you can sort of see that no matter where I hold this, there's primarily only one color of light that's reaching the camera or the sensor. So if I get way back here, you can see through that little hole orange. And the farther I get back, the better it is. If I get over here, I've got to find it. I should be able to see, yeah, there's the red of that tail light. And there's still some blurring. Green's hitting the sensor and red's hitting the sensor. So there's still some blurring. But you get this sense of the sensors in the back of the eye. If, in other words, light comes from high, passes through that little hole, and comes down to the bottom. Stuff way off to the right passes through the hole and comes to the left. And stuff way over there on the left comes through and hits the right side of the eye. And of course, if we're up at the top, the upper sensors are looking down. They're seeing brown light reflected from mulch. So we have a little bit of tension here because what we want is a really small hole. So the only light that hits each sensor is from one small dot in the distance. So there's only one kind of light. That means it's not blurring. There's not multiple sources sending light through. So it only corresponds to one spot out in the distance. So we want a small hole. The problem is if you have a really small hole is you can kind of see when I made that hole just that big, there really wasn't a whole lot of light reaching the sensor. There was so much light coming from elsewhere. Well, that's not a problem in the eye. That is the only hole that light can travel in through the eye and hit the sensor, or what we call the retina. So, but what we can do is we can widen that hole if we had a way of making it so all the light from one point out there comes in and hits one point on the sensor, one single sensor. And that's called a lens. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this second part of the Unit 7. A lens like this that can bend light, you can make it so light that comes from out there goes on to here, and you actually get an image, if I can find an image here. Here, see that? That's the image of the tree upside down. If I lift this up and I get it in focus at different focal lengths, you've got, it's not very good. Hard to see because it's very dim, but you can see that as an inverted image of the trees outside. If you were here, you'd see that this actually has color. I can see the car there. I can see the color of the sky. And that's what a lens does. It allows you to have a bigger opening, and all the light from one spot out there corresponds to one spot on the screen.